a security firm contracted by...
No!
The feds flew down to...
Way! No! Bro, Pinkertons, dude? Yo, what the f? All right, let's watch this. How this couple was almost murdered over a blog post by a friend of the show, Dantavius.
Behind your computer screen, you f. You don't have the balls to talk to me? Stop hiding behind your computer screen, you f.
Ina Steiner received this message on August 9th, 2019 at 2:49 p.m. 10 minutes later, she got this bizarre voicemail. Hi, Ina. Your wet specimen is ready to be delivered. You'll have to sign for it. Wet specimen? What the hell is a wet specimen? Sounds like something you leave in the toilet after eating Chipotle, she thought to herself. Ina's husband David called FedEx and asked them what a wet specimen was. Turns out it was a dead pig fetus, you know, like the kind you dissect in high school biology. As to why it was being sent to their house, they had no idea. Things only got more disturbing from there. Later that same day, a package showed up on the Steiners' porch. Ina went against her better judgment and decided to open it up. Huge mistake. As soon as she saw the contents, she let out a blood-curdling scream. Inside the box was a severed pig's face attached to a clump of human hair. Well, actually, it was just a Halloween mask from the movie Saw. Ina was relieved when she realized that, until she remembered Saw was about a psychopathic killer who kidnaps and tortures people.
Wanna play a little game?
Not even 10 minutes later, she received another message.
Do I have your attention now?
This was not an isolated incident. By the time these packages arrived, the Steiners were being terrorized for an entire month by some psychotic individuals. And the worst part about it was, they had no idea why. So who even are the Steiners in the first place? Well, for the most part, they were your typical middle-aged suburban couple, except they ran a website called E-commerce Bytes, which tracked news and trends across e-commerce platforms like Amazon, Etsy, and eBay. They quickly built up a small but active following and gained a reputation as being one of the most trusted sources for anything e-commerce related. People really loved this website. Well, I mean, not everyone, actually. Some people really hated it. Since its inception in 1999, E-commerce Bytes only had 2 employees. Ina, who wrote the articles, and David, who handled the business side of things. By all accounts, the Steiners were upstanding members of the community, and nobody had a bad word to say about them. So why were they being targeted? Maybe they weren't as wholesome as they seemed. Or maybe they just pissed off the wrong person. Let's go back to the day the harassment first started, and we'll try to put the pieces together as we go. Oh, and on a completely unrelated note, I've been watching a lot of Law & Order SVU, so that might come out in this video a little bit.
On YouTube, there are 2 types of videos. Low-quality, soulless slop that's churned out on a weekly basis with sole purposes of making as much money as possible, and based videos. This is the latter.
It's 3 a.m. The Steiners are fast asleep when suddenly they're awoken by the sound of a phone ringing. It's an unknown number, but David picks up anyways. Has this man never seen a horror movie? When he answers the phone, he's greeted by heavy breathing, followed by the person hanging up. Okay, that.
I think nowadays, because of like so many robocallers and shit, most people will never pick up a phone number if they don't recognize it.
It's a little weird, but hey, maybe it's just.
But it makes sense. Back then, they're kind of boomers. They probably thought like, oh yeah, I'll pick it up.
Wrong number. David thought nothing of it and went back to bed. The next morning, he went to check his mail and noticed that his fence had been vandalized. Somebody spray painted the word Phytomaster on it. What the heck was a Phytomaster? Was that the name of the vandal? Was Phytomaster the person who called him in the middle of the night? Luckily, things calmed down after that. For like a month. Seemingly out of nowhere, Ina started getting a ton of aggressive DMs on Twitter from someone with the handle Toy-Elay. Things like this.
Ina, what's your problem with eBay? You know that's how we pay rent, right?
Remember this one, because it's going to be important.
Hello? What the f is it going to take for you to answer me?
To be fair, it wasn't the first time she got hate messages, but it was never this bad. Still, she tried to just ignore it. Then things started getting weirder and weirder. The Steiners' work email was bombarded with all sorts of weird-ass subscriptions. InfoWars, Sin City Fetish Nights, the Satanic Temple, and most disturbingly, Franklin the Turtle fan club.
Bro, I swear to God, there's just like, we still don't have a decent way of like dealing with psychopathic like cyber stalkers. We just have no way, which is kind of crazy. Like there's just no, as long as someone's got a will, dude, so if someone is like willing and motivated, they can just like just keep doing insane amounts of internet crime.
Meanwhile, the hate messages continue to pour in.
I'm waiting. I don't like waiting. I guess I'm gonna have to get your attention another way, bitch.
This message was sent the night before the wet specimen incident, and this was only the beginning. After they got the pig mask, the Steiners would continue to receive all sorts of weird deliveries on an almost daily basis. Everything from pizzas to pornos to boxes of live cockroaches and spiders. David and Ina were so freaked out that they adopted the lifestyle of a Reddit mod and stopped going outside completely unless it was absolutely necessary. And on those rare occasions when they did venture out of the house, they noticed that they were being tailed by a black van. By this point, they were so traumatized that they didn't know if they were actually being followed or they were just going insane. Because every time they called the cops, the black van would disappear like it never existed. Police couldn't make heads or tails of the situation. Whoever was behind this, they were no amateurs. They were organized and they covered their tracks well. But not well enough. Eventually, Natick PD was able to get the license plate of the black van. It was rented by a woman named Veronica Zay. This must have been some kind of mistake. When you think of a stalker, it's usually somebody that looks like this, not an attractive 25-year-old woman. The police decided to question her anyways. They found out she was staying at a hotel in Boston nearby, so they called her room and her husband picked up. He said she would be down right away to chat with them, but she never came down. Instead, she got on a plane to California. Natick PD had to get the FBI involved, and it didn't take them long to track her down. Turns out, Zay worked for a company called Progressive Force Concepts, a security firm contracted by eBay.
No!
The feds flew down to...
Way! No! Bro, Pinkertons, dude? eBay was doing Pinkerton shit? Yo, what the f... Okay, this does unironically make me sometimes feel like... A lot of people be like, Hasan, you got like hella stalkers, people sending you death threats and shit. Like, do you ever feel like maybe it's, you know, agencies that are involved in this circumstance? And now it makes me feel like, who knows? Maybe that's not that far-fetched. I don't know.
San Jose to interrogate Zay, and she sang like a fucking...
I've always operated under the assumption that these dudes are doing it on their own volition because they're just like schizophrenic and brain broken into believing that I am the greatest evil that has ever graced the fiber optic cables that serve people, you know, content on the internet, directed by at least like multiple communities that spend an insane amount of time. But who knows?
Toucan. She, along with about a dozen other eBay employees, were a part of a conspiracy to harass, intimidate, and defame the Steiners. In the grand scheme of things, Zay was just a low-level grunt, but this thing went straight to the top. I'm talking the very top. Multiple C-level executives were all involved in this conspiracy. But that begs the question, what the heck did the Steiners do to deserve these months of psychological torture?
To spend 20 years, my career, reporting on e-commerce and helping small businesses to find out that the scope, meaning how many people did this to us. That within the company it was all the way up, and it was not a secret between two people.
This was basically corporate terrorism.
eBay,
that's
along with
crazy.
Amazon and Etsy, is one of the big three e-commerce platforms. So obviously it was a frequent topic on e-commerce bites, which, by the way, just a little side thing, this video is going to be very biased against eBay. I'm just going to come right out and say that. I hate eBay, okay? I tried to buy a pair of Adidas track pants off of there once, and they sent me these. What the hell is top here sport? Like, the H in here isn't even capitalized, but every other word is capitalized. Also, they banned me in 2016 for selling bootleg Family Guy DVDs, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, in the early days, eBay had a very positive relationship with e-commerce bites.
Bro, got the Hamas special Abibas, dude.
One time, Ina was even invited to eBay headquarters for a meet and greet with the executives. But all of that changed when this mother sucker, Devin Wenig, joined the company. You see, sometimes e-commerce Bytes would publish articles that were lightly critical of eBay and its leadership. And this man's fragile ego just could not get his balls getting busted even a little bit. As the years went on, Wenig and his fellow executives grew to hate e-commerce Bytes with a passion. But for the most part, they let it go because they couldn't do anything about it. That is until 2019. A group of eBay's most powerful people held a secret meeting in the C-suite to discuss the solution to the so-called Ina Steiner problem. We don't know exactly what was discussed in this meeting, but we do have some text messages from after. On April 10th, Wenig texted Steve Weimer, eBay's CCO, a link to an article titled, "eBay's CEO makes 152 times that of employees." Devin was livid. Weimer texted back, "We are going to crush this lady." A couple days later, Wenig texted Weimer, "Fuck them, the journal is next after Ina Steiner." Not exactly sure what this was in response to, but I think it has something to do with this article from the Wall Street Journal. You know, I can see why he got pissed off at this one actually. That's highly unprofessional. By this time, eBay had an entire dedicated team of people whose only job was to monitor e-commerce Bytes around the clock and forward any relevant posts up the chain of command. So a question you might be asking yourself is, why all of a sudden in 2019 were these people spurting out so badly? Well, it's because of this guy, Paul Singer. In January of 2019, Singer's firm Elliott Investment Management bought a $1.3 billion stake in eBay.
So, why is this important? And why am I so close to the camera? Well, I don't have an answer to the second question, but I do have an answer to the first. Paul Singer was your typical cutthroat evil billionaire archetype.
Billionaire activist investor Paul Singer has been called the Vulture Lord and a...
This is making me reconsider all the times that I've talked shit about steak and kick. I was just kidding, okay? My bad. I was lying. Gambling is sick, especially crypto gambling. It ain't up at all. I swear. It's so good. See? I take it back. All those other times, not Eddie is cool. He wouldn't kill you. Yeah, he is cool. And also, he would never do that. And also, these guys weren't killing the Steiners. They were just stalking them. Well, yeah, I love Kick, and I love eBay, and I love billionaires, and I...
bloodsucker by the former Argentine president Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner. He's also been labelled a raider and a profiteer. He's feared the world over for hostile boardroom takeovers and profiting from debt-laden countries. He's so powerful, he brought Argentina to its knees and set off a chain of events that led to the impeachment of South Korea's president in 2017.
Our boy Devin Wenig was rightfully scared shitless of this guy, especially after Elliott Management released a public letter saying that eBay was underperforming. Now, this letter was essentially a thinly veiled threat telling the executives, hey, if you guys don't get your shit together, I'm going to talk to the board and get you out of here. So Wenig and his pals had to make sure that all criticism of eBay was kept to a minimum, or else they could lose their jobs. And they basically had two ways of going about this. Number one, they could do a better job and improve the company. Or number two, they could embark on a psychopathic harassment campaign to silence all their critics.
I think
they went with option two. Oh, and by the way, the Steiners weren't eBay's only ops.
Phytomaster. Remember him from the spray paint?
Were they asking for it like the guy in Baby Reindeer? I never said he was asking for it. You're so annoying. See, dude, my weirdos are in here, okay? They're born out of this community. I promise. They are born out of this community. It's not like corporations that are hiring people to say mentally ill things. It's just they're in here.
This man was basically eBay's biggest hater. He could frequently be seen in the comment section of e-commerce Bytes shitting on eBay and its leaders. When he wasn't doing that, he was on Twitter shitting on eBay and its leaders under his handle @UnsuckEBay. Steve Weimer in particular really hated this guy. I am utterly vexed by this. This Twitter account dominates our social narrative with his constant obsession with trolling us. There are a few people, including Ina Steiner, who have seemingly dedicated their lives to erroneously trashing us. I genuinely believe these people are acting out of malice, and anything we can do to solve it should be explored. Whatever it takes. On August 1st, Ina published another article that really rustled Devin Wenig's jimmies. It was about how he built an exact replica of this Manhattan bar called Walker's West on the eBay campus. Fidomaster tweeted out a link to Ina's article and criticized Wenig for undertaking such a big, expensive project while eBay was going through layoffs, cost reductions, and scrutiny from Elliott management. This was the beginning of the end. Wenig gave the order, if we're ever going to take her down, now's the time. eBay's brass got together again and decided to turn things up a notch. Fidomaster had to go, but first they had to deal with...
Guys, it's a great Pandu. I already said I love Kick. I love all of the communities that you come from. I was wrong, and I love capitalism. Please.
Ina Steiner. But obviously these two schmucks weren't going to get their own hands dirty. That's where this guy, Jim Baugh, comes into the picture. He was eBay's head of safety and security.
Stop! You violated the law.
According to court documents, before coming to eBay, Baugh worked for the US government where he, quote, engaging in various activities on the government's behalf, including conducting physical and electronic surveillance, engaging in physical trespass, and using false pretenses to gain unauthorized access to private resources. So this man was no stranger to doing some shady shit. Weimer passed on Wenig's request to take her down to our boy Jim Baugh. He also added, hatred is a sin. I am very sinful. I'm not f***ing around with her anymore. I want her done. She is a biased troll who needs to get burned down. This man is actually comically evil. So this Baugh fellow was pretty much given carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. And
Okay, I want to reiterate something here. They're talking about like a literal wife and husband operation that's just posting a blog about e-commerce websites, including but not limited to eBay. That is insane. This is, oh my God.
he started by formulating the most psychotically evil scheme ever. It was simple. He would get a bunch of his goons to terrorize the Steiners until they couldn't take it anymore. Then eBay would come in and offer to help them. They would be so grateful that they would only write articles glazing eBay from that point on. He called this the White Knight strategy. And if this kind of sounds like the plot to Body of Lies, that's because it is. And he came up with this idea after watching that movie. Exactly 1 week after his conversation with Weimer, Baugh put his plan into motion. On August 8th, Baugh sent one of his henchmen out to Natick to spray paint Fidomaster on their fence. Because, according to Jim... That was weird. According to Jim... What the...
Come on.
Jim Baugh thought that Fidomaster's true identity was David Steiner. Spoiler alert, it was not. Now, the graffiti was just a little taste, a tap on the shoulder, if you will. Things would continue to ramp up from there, as we know. After the spray paint, Baugh met up with his team to brainstorm more ways that they could with the Steiners. He let them know that they had complete support from the higher-ups and showed them all the messages from Steve Weimer. Some of the ideas were silly, like sending them gift boxes full of poop.
I do love that they are like so unhinged and so hopped up on power that they think that there is no way in hell that this kind of communication would ever be unearthed, and they would face zero repercussions. Now, I don't know what happened to the eBay executives that did this. I hope they got at least some level of punishment. It's crazy.
Others were more serious, like planting crystal meth in their car or burning down their house. But eventually, they settled somewhere in the middle of these two things, and they came up with a 5-step plan. Step 1, trolling. Baugh instructed some of his employees to create accounts that would send horrible messages to Ina Steiner on a daily basis. This was real nasty stuff.
Your fat husband David needs to be put in line, after he takes the plugs out of his assholes.
What does that even mean? And like I said earlier, they also signed the Steiners up for like 100 different email lists, fetish sites, Scientology newsletters, Breitbart, vaping, BuzzFeed, just a bunch of vile nonsense like that. Oh, and listen to this. One day, a man showed up to their house holding a box of condoms and a bottle of Mad Dog 2020. Turns out the trolls were making fake posts on Craigslist, claiming that the Steiners were having everything must go yard sales, or they were hosting gangbangs at their house.
I'm here for the gangbang.
I'm not joking about this at all, by the way. Mature married couples seeking singles or other couples open to explore threesomes, BDSM, or cross-dressing. 420 friendly. Please send pics/stats for more info. You know, this would be funny if it wasn't so psychotic. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's still kind of funny, and I feel bad for thinking that. Step 2, intimidation. So we already covered that the Steiners had a pig fetus, a pig mask, and boxes of insects sent to their house. That was just the tip of the iceberg. At one point, it got really dark. David Steiner was sent a book called How to Deal with the Death of a Spouse, which is horrendous on its own, but they also sent him a funeral wreath along with a card that said, "I'm sorry for your loss." So now they've gone beyond trolling to straight up death threats. At this point, the Steiners were in a...
Bro, did they hire like a bunch of Kiwi Farms posters or some shit? Like, what? This is literally like a direct 1-to-1 DGG Kiwi Farms 4chan poll, like direct 1-to-1. Like, there are literally Discord servers full of people who do this right now, probably even watching this stream. I didn't realize that like corporations did stuff like this. I thought this was like almost exclusively antisocial personality disordered people who are too agoraphobic to go out and do a school shooting. Like, I thought that that was where they congregated. I didn't realize that this is like actual former... I didn't realize like actual former government employees are out here doing this kind of shit. The FBI doing? Why the hell did we pass the Patriot Act if not to stop these kinds of people? Do you think the Patriot Act was passed to stop these kinds of people? No, dude. Are you trolling? No, I am not trolling. I genuinely didn't realize that like former State Department employees engage in this kind of behavior. I thought this was like exclusively dudes that look like Boogie 1488 that like that people that, you know, lol cow people like that. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was who did this kind of shit and not like actual former government employees and shit.
Constant state of fear because random people were constantly showing up to their house all the time for the yard sales or the gangbangs. They didn't know if it was someone that came to whack them or whack them off.
As this is going on, what's it like to be inside your house?
When it would get dark out at night, that's when I would really be terrified.
You guys started sleeping in separate rooms at one point?
What we wanted to do is to make sure that if someone did break in, that at least one of us could either call the police or escape.
David set up security cameras all over the house, but that only made them feel less safe because he kept seeing that damn black van parked right outside their street. Step 3, defamation. Another thing they did was sent the most vile, hardcore pornographic magazines to the Steiners' neighbors with their names on it. Things like Hustler, Barely Legal, Eye-Popping 18-Year-Olds, and Femboy Bussy Madness. Jim Baugh later claimed that they never even sent that last one. Either way, now all of their neighbors thought they were degenerates. Step 4, stalking. Every time David or Ina would leave the house to get groceries or run some errands, one of Baugh's henchmen was following them at all times, always in the same black van with New York plates. They wanted to make sure that David knew he was being followed. Every time they called the police, the stalkers would disappear because they were monitoring the police radar so they knew when they were coming. Step 5, white knight.
This personally turns it into like more of a professional operation. All the other stuff, mostly internet guys. But random trolls will do stuff like this, but they won't take it to this level. At most, they'll like, you know, put your address on Craigslist and try to get other people to like other solicitors to come to your house. That kind of shit. They won't personally ever leave their houses, especially when you're like monitoring police radars or monitoring like police radio. That's professional. Personally stalking a person and also monitoring the police radio to make sure that like you're not caught by the police while you're in the process of personally stalking a person. That's where the basement dwellers that's what I would say separates the basement dwellers from the actual professionals.
Once the Steiners were good and scared, eBay would reach out to them and offer to help. Then, when all the harassment magically went away, the Steiners would be so grateful. They would love eBay. They would only write articles about how great eBay was forever. And if that didn't work, there was a plan B.
Oh wait, I almost forgot about Fidomaster. We'll come back to plan B in a minute. So while Baugh's goons were out there terrorizing the Steiners, Jim himself was spending most of his time trying to identify Fidomaster. And he did this by catfishing him. He set up a fake Twitter account with an attractive woman as the profile picture and slid into Fidomaster's DMs. Marissa claimed that she was a disgruntled eBay employee who had video evidence of eBay executives engaging in illegal activities, and she wanted to turn the video over to Fidomaster at a...
I've been giving a lot of thought to what you said. I'm going to trust you with something. I got 3 extremely damaging videos of executives misbehaving. They don't know I have these, and I don't know what to do with them. Hey, Marissa, okay, so to be clear, I'm not an attorney and in no way qualified to give legal advice. Were you an observer or victim in these videos? Or did someone share them with you? Also, with these videos, is it misbehaving Harvey Weinstein, Anthony Weiner type misbehaving, or something showing them clearly breaking laws or something else in general? These are my videos and they're real. No one knows that I have them. I don't want a lawyer. All I want is for the public to see these. It's Weinstein Weiner stuff. Some of it is illegal too.
A secret drop point.
Baugh thought that he had Fidomaster by the balls. Here's a message he sent to Steve Weimer.
Regarding the unsuck idiot, I have reason to believe he's either her husband or another close associate. I've been communicating with him every day. I told him I have an incriminating video that he needs to see. He bid on it hook, line, and sinker. I want to leave it at a hotel concierge for him. If I can get him to pick it up, his ass is mine.
God only knows what was on these tapes, but I can imagine it was CP or something else incriminating that they would use to blackmail Fidomaster. But luckily, he's no idiot and didn't fall for this, frankly, very obvious honeypot.
Yeah, I don't want a lawyer. I just want to give you these videos. It's so funny because it's like, yeah, my husband is dead. I don't want love or a relationship. I just want sex. Like, bot behavior, okay? Straight up. The exact type of bot copywriting that will only dupe people in their weakest moments when they're their horniest, fapping, okay? Like, there is no way that you get duped by some shit like that unless you're literally got one hand on the mouse and the other on your cock and you're just ripping it.
Scheme. I don't know about you guys, but if an attractive woman ever messages me out of the blue, I'm immediately assuming it's a federal agent.
So his true identity was never discovered, and he was spared from the torture that the Steiners were going through. Which brings me back to Plan B, which is the most terrifying part of this whole video. While the whole harassment campaign was going on, Devin Wenig was conveniently on sabbatical in Europe, which I'm sure is just a coincidence and definitely not a thinly veiled attempt at plausible deniability. Weimer wanted to take care of e-commerce bites before he got back from the sabbatical, but they were already running out of time. It had been 2 weeks, and the Steiners were still writing about eBay. That's when Plan B came into effect. What's Plan B? Plan B was basically ordering a hit on the Steiners.
No!
You see, Baugh's employees were mostly former military or police, and they were completely loyal to him. That's why his department has been referred to in court documents as eBay's internal army. So he had these 2 guys.
Bro, what is going on in this country? Oh my God, bro. Someone said Eddie would never. No, definitely not. What the absolute is happening in this nation, bro? Why is this allowed? Like, I thought this was like some Pinkerton shit. You know what I mean? I thought this was like in the rear view mirror as far as like American history goes. I didn't realize motherfuckers were like, no, we got assassins, bro. We got assassins working under our ranks. Like, let's go do some. I don't believe there isn't any way that people like Elon Musk isn't doing shit like this. Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about Elon Musk. Oh my God. This is literally the reason why I didn't want to let it be known that I was the single individual largest donor to the Amazon Labor Union Fund until it came out in news articles later down the line, which was a lie anyway. I paid for that, actually. I didn't do that. I would never pay the Amazon Labor Union.
Bert and Cook, who were both former police captains, they reached out to a Samoan gang who they knew and paid them a couple $1,000 to fuck with the Steiners. Baugh said, and I quote, "Once the Samoans are involved, it's out of my hands." I don't know what that means, but it can't be good. That's also why they picked the name Toy Ilay as the main account that was harassing the Steiners, because it sounded Samoan. Luckily, it never came to that, because soon their plan would start to fall apart. Now, not all of Ball's employees were military or law enforcement types. Some of them were just random women that got hired as security analysts. This part of Ball's team were dubbed Jim's Angels, which is kind of weird, but just like my last 2 marriages, the women would ruin everything. On August 18th, David Steiner was on his way to the local magazine store when he noticed, again, he was being followed. But this time, he was able to get a picture of the car's license plate. The police were able to track down the license plate to one of Jim's angels, Veronica Zay. When the police showed up to her hotel to question her, Jim Baugh acted like he was her husband and did all the talking for her. He told them she would be down right away to answer all their questions. But instead, he smuggled her out of the hotel and put her on a plane back to San Jose.
Is it so outrageous? You literally stream with a dude whose house was firebombed because of what he put online? Yeah, but that's like Australia. And also, he was on the government. Why wouldn't it happen in America if it happens in Australia? Anyway, let's just continue on with that. I mean, to be fair, I've also personally interviewed, people locked up for treason and tortured by the federal government, by the military, as a matter of fact, for months on end. Dude, I love the government. And also, you interviewed Elon's baby mama? Shut up. No, I didn't. That's a fucking lie. I never did that. I personally never would interview Elon's baby mama. Are you nuts? And I love Gamba. You're paranoia maxing right now? I mean, I'm not paranoia maxing because like everything that I've seen here, to a certain degree, I have definitely experienced, except, all right. Did you leave one extra? Thank you.
Jose. Huge mistake. As soon as she crossed state lines, this went from a small town mystery to a federal matter. Now the whole eBay crew knew the shit was hitting the fan and they had to go into damage control mode. Gilbert, the former police chief, called the Steiners to offer eBay support as part of the White Knight strategy, but they weren't really as receptive as he thought. As soon as he hung up the phone with the Steiners, Gilbert called Natick PD and tried to convince them that the Steiners were actually insane and this whole situation was an elaborate hoax to make eBay look bad. A couple days later, the FBI discovered that the deliveries sent to the Steiners were paid for with gift cards purchased at a Safeway in San Jose, just a few miles from eBay headquarters. These people must be stupid or something. I thought they were like master strategists, but I guess not.
To be fair, I think that like at a certain point, there's always going to be a paper trail. They just personally didn't think that. Like, I'm thinking of how that could go about that to make it untraceable. But like at a certain point, you have to recognize that like there is going to be a paper trail. Like they literally had a physical car. The only way to get around that, like you can't personally hire the services of someone or personally engage in physical stalking without you can't do all of that without like leaving some sort of paper trail or some sort of physical trail. You know what I mean? It's gonna happen.
An investigator called the Safeway and asked for the security footage from when the gift card was purchased. Gilbert found out about this and he tried to use his connections to the local police to give the wrong footage to the feds, but they didn't. Meanwhile, back at eBay headquarters, they were having a party, a shredding party. They were destroying documents, deleting messages, and coming up with cover stories for when the FBI inevitably came after them. As soon as the FBI probe became public, Wenig immediately denied any wrongdoing and stated, "There was no direction, no knowledge, no private understanding, no tacit approval, ever." Weimer also told the press he would, quote, "never condone or participate in any of these activities."
You sure about that?
Despite their best efforts to stonewall the investigation, everyone involved in the conspiracy was criminally charged. Well, almost everybody. Let's see what happened to our goofy cast of characters, starting with the lowest ranking employee up to the CEO himself. Veronica Zay pleaded guilty almost immediately, and she was the most cooperative with the investigation. From what I gathered, she was the most innocent of all these people. It seemed like she was kind of coerced into this whole thing by Jim Baugh, who by all accounts was a scary dude, and his whole operation has been described as cult-like. For years, Baugh engaged in a pattern of breaking down the analysts, firing them without cause and creating a toxic work environment. He would also show the analysts graphic videos like one of a car crash that was on fire and surrounded by severed limbs and a decapitated head. But I think the most psychotic thing of all is he insisted that his employees refer to him as Dad. That's not to excuse her actions or anything, but it seemed like she genuinely felt bad about what she did. 2 years probation. Stephanie Stockwell, another one of Jim's angels. She was basically Veronica's immediate manager, still pretty low on the totem pole. 24 months probation. Brian Gilbert, former police captain and senior manager of special operations. Still awaiting sentencing as of 2024. Philip Cook, the other former police captain who worked with Gilbert. 18 months in prison, followed by 3 years probation.
Let's go.
Stephanie Pop was eBay's senior manager of global intelligence. Her role in the scheme was sending all of those psychotic and threatening messages to Ina Steiner. 13 months in prison. David Harville, eBay's director of global resiliency. He was Ball's right-hand man. 2 years in prison, 2 years probation, and a $40,000 fine. Jim Ball, 57 months in prison, 2 years supervised release, and a $40,000 fine.
No, that's not nothing, bro. Are you kidding me? For fucking corporate espionage, corporate cyber stalking, like, I'll take it. I just want to know what happened to the executives who were directly involved. Chat, there are executives that were directing this. Let's see what happened to them.
Wendy Jones, Senior Vice President of Global Operations. She was actually Jim Ball's boss and was the highest ranking member of this whole conspiracy other than Weimer and Wenig. She was never criminally charged and continued to work for eBay until December.
Are you kidding me, bro? Are you joking? That's insane. That is unimaginable, dude. Oh my God. Oh my God. So they got all the lower level people and bro, oh my God. Oh my God. That is, oh, that's so awesome. That's America, baby. Hey, just don't do it again, okay?
2020 before receiving an $11 million severance pay. Today, she's a board member at Prudential Financial. Steve Weimer is now...
No, they did mention that they sent them spiders and cockroaches in the mail. He did mention that.
Now the CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Silicon Valley, which is amazing. This is definitely a man who should be working with children. The Boys and Girls Club's chairman of the board said he was aware of what happened at eBay, but believed Mr. Weimer is a leader with integrity. And I don't know, maybe this guy's going off a different definition of integrity than I am.
Oh my God.
But I don't think that's the word I would use, necessarily. Now, you might think that Devin Wenig also got off scot-free, but you'd be completely wrong. Not only was he pressured to resign from eBay, but he was also forced to accept a $57 million severance package. He currently sits on the board of Salesforce and General Motors. It's almost like when you have enough money and influence, you can get away with committing crimes. You could almost say that we live in an unfair system where the rules are different for rich and poor. Nah, that can't be right. As for eBay itself, they were found criminally liable and had to pay.
I think dudes who are operating in the troll servers, Discord servers, subreddits and whatnot should remember what happened to the lower level enforcers that actually followed on the desires of cyber stalking individuals. That's all I'm going to say. You know, maybe the executives don't get into trouble at the end of the day, but if you're the one who is operating on the wishes of others and engaging in this sort of shit, perhaps, you know, perhaps you might get into trouble as well. I'm just saying.
A hefty fine of $3 million. Plus, they had to promise to be good boys for 3 whole years. The Steiners made a public statement about all this on their website. We were targeted because we gave eBay sellers a voice and because we reported facts that top executives didn't like publicly laid bare. As of today, the Steiners have received no compensation for their permanent psychological damage, and they're currently suing eBay in criminal court, where I'm sure justice will prevail.
God damn, eBay recently bought the card game selling website TCG Player and has been busting their unionization efforts. Jesus Christ. This was in many ways illuminating, very alarming. They did all this just to target some bloggers in 2019. They were probably the only people reading it. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, Hasbro sent the Pinkertons after a Magic the Gathering YouTuber. I remember that one. Magic the Gathering publisher Wizard of the Coast sent Pinkertons after a leaker. And yeah, the dude hadn't even stole the cards. Like they just fucked up and sent them unreleased cards.